welcome back to the REDX podcast. My name is Haley Johnson. I'm your host today, and we have a very exciting guest. We have somebody that's been on the show before, so you might have seen his face before, but we've got James Shelby from Temecula, California, from the Shelby Sold Real Estate team. How's it going, James?
It is going very well. It's another beautiful day.
Oh, good. I love that. Positive energy.
Yes.
Sweet. Well, today, James, we're going to talk a little bit about circle prospecting geo leads, things like that, the tools you use, the scripts that you use. And so I think we're going to talk about a lot of valuable information for our audience. And before we get started, I do want to tell our audience that if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, be sure to do that. Also, if you want to sign up for reminders about our podcast, you can go to theredx.com/podcasts and put your email in the pop-up, and you'll get reminders whenever we have podcast every single Thursday. All right, now that that's out of the way, James, for people that don't know you, could you give us just a brief introduction?
Yes. Like you said, I'm in Temecula, Murrieta area of California. I've been in real estate now for about 8 years. I have a very small team, just 2 other agents that work alongside me and an assistant. And yeah, that's about it.
That's awesome. How did you get started in real estate?
So it began with the process of buying my first property. It was during a time when, the market was down, really, really rough time in the market as far as a lot of short sales, a lot of REO properties. And I was trying to buy my first home, and I didn't really know much about real estate at all, really. I was just a kid pretty much. And I didn't understand that being a real estate agent was, I knew it was a job, but I didn't really understand how it worked, how they got paid, what their, duties were as an agent. But I learned a lot throughout that process. And during that time, I was working installing autoglass, mobile. So I was on the road a lot. And I would go to people's homes and install autoglass or businesses and things like that. And I would drive around and I would see all these almost, brand new home, maybe a year, 2 years old, sitting empty. The grass was overgrown. And I would call my agent at the time and say, hey, what about this property? What about that one? And she'd say, well, that's, it's not on the market, but it looks like it's going through foreclosure. Maybe we can contact the owner and see if they'd be willing to do a short sale. Keep in mind, like I said, I didn't know any of this at the time. I didn't know how any of it worked or what it was, but I would reach out to the owners and, just say, hey, do you want to sell your home? Just almost like, just naive and ignorant. Ignorance is bliss. Like, I'm just a kid, like, hey, I know, you bought this home for $500,000 and now it's only worth, $250. You want to sell it to me, and I ended up getting her a couple listings that were short sale listings, and she's like, you know what, maybe you should, look into getting your license. So that was kind of how it started.
That's awesome.
Very
cool. Interesting story. It's usually not, people don't usually like stumble into it sometimes, kind of what sounds like you did. But
true. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
cool.
It was interesting, and at the time when I started doing a little more research, once she told me that, I was like, well, how does this work? What do I need to do? So I started doing a little research, and when I saw how the getting paid works, I was like, okay, so they get a percentage of the sales price. And I started doing some math, and I'm like, wow, you only need to sell. I would only need to sell, one home a month to kind of make the living I make now. And so that got my wheels turning. And little did I know, most agents don't even sell one home a month at the time. But I thought, well, how hard could it be? Again, being, naive and kind of ignorant. So
cool.
Once I saw how the commission structure worked, I was like, all right, I'm gonna give this a try.
Yeah, you could do that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So then when you got into it, talk to me how many years have you been in real estate?
I've been in real estate now for 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were first starting out, talk to me about like some of the things that you started doing that made you as successful as you are today. Maybe because I know you're an avid prospector. Hello,
Yes.
REDX, what's up?
Yeah.
So kind of talk to me about that. What are some things that you did that helped you be successful?
Well, I would say first and foremost, at the time, podcasts were just starting to be a thing. This was maybe 10 years ago or something when I started thinking about getting my license, something like that. So podcasts were something that I was listening to, like Joe Rogan Experience. I was listening to podcasts. There wasn't a lot at the time, but I was like, well, seems to be a lot of different types of podcasts. So let me see what's out there as far as education for how to be a good real estate agent. And there was a few out there. There was Pat Hyben was one of them. There's a few. So I started listening to those, and that really opened my mind. And I got to give you guys credit, and those podcast credit. Shows like this, podcasts like this are great for not only new agents, but agents of any amount of experience, because I really learned a lot from listening to interviews like this. So I heard a lot of interviews with really top producing agents, and a lot of them all had one thing in common, most of them, and that was prospecting. And so what I started doing, once I listened to that every day when I was doing my job, and while I was getting my license. And once I got my license, I knew I have to start talking to a lot of people. So I started door knocking. I would go to work, my regular job, and then when I got off work, I would put on a suit and I would go and door knock for an hour or 2 hours.
Wow.
And then I door knock on the weekends, and that was how I got my first deal, was door knocking. And then that was another kind of light bulb, like, okay, wow, this actually does work if you do it.
Yeah. That's cool. A lot of our audience are newer agents, like you're talking about, that are just getting into the business, kind of figuring out what works, what doesn't, stuff like that. And that's kind of why we started this podcast too, is especially when COVID hit and a lot of people didn't know what to do. And what's interesting, after I have interviewed a lot of people over the past year or so, is it kind of is the same stuff, right? So you're still doing prospecting. You're still doing all of these activities that worked before COVID, and they work now. It just takes the work. You just have to do it. So when it all kind of happened, people were just fearful. But really the fundamentals kind of, they don't change over time, is what I'm seeing, at least. What do you think?
You're correct. Yeah, you're correct. I would say technology has definitely helped the business. And when I talk about technology, I'm talking about not only something like REDX, where you can have a dialer on your computer with all the information. That's helped prospecting greatly. But I also think there's all different types of technology that have greatly helped agents produce at a higher level. However, at the foundation, it's like building a house, right? The foundation, I will always say, has to be prospecting, and not only prospecting, but knowing what to say. Knowing your scripts, knowing objection handling, and I would say almost as important as scripts. I would say right there is people skills and understanding language and the whole dynamic of a conversation. And, those things are very important, as well as mindset. So I would put all those things together as the foundation of your structure of your real estate business. And then you can add from there social media, that's your framing. And then you can add on some branding and some marketing. And then before you know it, you have this giant structure of your real estate business that's just this well-oiled machine. But I think that prospecting has to be the foundation, because let's face it, whether you're dialing leads off of REDX, or you're door knocking, or you're just calling Zillow leads, you still have to know how to talk to people.
Right.
there's no way to do a transaction without having a conversation with the buyer or the seller. It's almost impossible.
Yeah. And you're talking about this people skills, scripts, mindset kind of stuff. And I'm curious how you developed that. Did you just go and start calling and just over time you got that skill set? Like for people that are starting out right now, what can they do to get that skill set, that mindset that you have?
That's a great question. Some people are naturally more of a people person that like to have conversations, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that you're great at being a salesperson, and helping, the client, helping figure out exactly what the client wants or needs. So I do think it's nice if you have that, you don't have a fear to talk to people. That's a good starting point. But even if you are a little nervous to talk to people, the best way to get over being nervous is to practice or to have confidence through practicing what you're going to say. So some of the stuff I had done through the years is, number one, the podcast and stuff helped a lot. Like I said, just learning what people would say, learning what they would do. But more importantly, I would say even to that is I did start coaching with Mike Ferry. Mike Ferry is he's one of the biggest real estate coaches in the world, as well as, Tom, his son, Tom Ferry. So coaching is another, whether it's through a mentor or through a coaching program, I think it's very important to learn, what to say. And a big thing that I learned from Mike is selling isn't telling, it's asking questions. So, a lot of people think of a salesman like, hey, you want to tell the client, hey, we got to do this, we need to do this. And it's one of the biggest mistakes that you can make as a salesperson is to try to tell people what to do.
Right.
No one wants to be told what to do. So I learned very quickly, you need to ask questions. But not only do you need to ask questions, you need to know what questions to ask to identify exactly how you can help the client. And in this business, there's not a whole lot of questions you really need to learn because everyone usually wants the same thing, right? Sellers want to sell their home and they want it, a good price, the best price, and buyers want to buy a home for the least amount, So, but yeah, I would say coaching and watching shows like this one and other YouTube shows and listening to podcasts is a great way to start.
Perfect. Awesome. So taking it from the people that have been in it for a while and kind of know the ropes and learning from that, that's good advice. So I want to get into a little bit more of like you're talking about like your actual scripts, the questions that you actually ask. But before we get to that, I want to ask you what right now with all the current state of the world and sorry, I hit the mic. What is your prospecting schedule? What does that look like right now?
So I have shifted a little bit when it comes to my schedule with prospecting. And this is where maybe I'm a little different than some of what you might be taught in a coaching program. Initially, early in my career, it was I would get to the office at 7. I would warm up. I would get my scripts ready. I'd get in a good mindset. I'd do all that. And I think that's a good schedule for someone starting is get to the office early, start hitting the phones at 7:55 and, a good 3 hours of prospecting. But now that I'm a little more into my career, I've been in the business for quite a while. I have a big database. I am starting my prospecting. I'll just be honest. I usually start a little closer to 9 a.m. And I'm not hitting in this market. I'm not hitting expireds because there really just isn't any new expired. So I'm focusing on older expireds, 6 months or more. I'm focusing on just listed, just sold. And I'm doing this for about 2 hours. And then I'm following up with all my follow-up and my sphere and leads and things like that in the afternoon, most of the time. That's kind of a rough idea of what my schedule looks like, without
That's
giving you a
great.
whole day. Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
Monday through Friday, or does it change?
Yeah. Yeah. It's Monday through Friday. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. And I think it's important to also say that even if you don't start at 7 or 8 a.m., what works for you in your market might not work for somebody else. I know especially right now, because like newer expireds are hard to come by because of how low inventory is nationwide, that people are kind of switching it up. And that's why I wanted to talk to you today about circle prospecting and geo leads, because that's kind of what a lot of people I've been talking to are kind of focusing on. Just listed, just sold, stuff like that. Calling around a neighborhood. So why don't we get into that a little bit? What does circle prospecting look like for you right now?
Not much has changed, I would say, in that aspect of circle prospecting, other than maybe the conversation's a little different with the person on the phone there. But I'm still calling homes around our sales, whether we've just listed or just sold a property. I'm still usually calling in that area. But the conversation is a little different, because right now the market is so insane for sellers as far as what they're getting for their homes. And I'd say that's a bigger focal point of the call, is just, because even people that maybe weren't thinking of selling, when they hear the numbers that people are getting, are even getting a little more intrigued of, wow, I didn't know the market was like that. I wasn't thinking of selling, but, wow, if I could get that, maybe we'll have a conversation. So, I'm still using the same script as far as, and I don't know if you want to get into the exact script, but it's pretty similar to most just listed, just sold scripts that are out there. My name is James Shelby. I'm the owner of the Shelby Sold Real Estate Team. We just listed a home at 123 Main Street. It's a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, and it's listed at this price, or it just sold at this price. When do you plan on making your next move? That's always the question. When do you plan on making your next move? So you're hitting them with the price, you're hitting them with the area, and then you're asking them not if they've thought about moving, but when. When do you plan on making your next move? Because you don't want to ask them if they're planning on moving, because it's just like when you walk into a store and they ask you if you need help, you're always going to say, oh, no, I'm fine. If you ask them, are you making a move? Usually that instinct always is just to say, oh, no, I'm not moving. But if you say when, that always usually gives them they'll pause and kind of think about that for a second most of the time, saying, oh, well, maybe when this happens. And a lot of times, even if they're not thinking of moving right away, they'll tell you, well, actually, when my kids graduate high school, in a year or two or whatever that is. So at least then okay, well, this person is interested in moving, not right now, but I'm going to add them to the database, so I'm going to get their information, and just stay in touch with them, maybe in the next 6 months to a year, and follow up down the line.
I like that. I like that question of when, instead of are you, or asking a yes or no question or something like that. So I like that. Are you getting, or what kind of objections are you getting right now?
When it comes to circle prospecting, I don't get a lot of objections, because most people are just not ready right now.
Yeah.
So I would say that's probably the biggest objection, if there was one, is people just, they're not ready to make a move. But second to that, I would say even people that are sometimes intrigued or think, well, okay, if I could sell, that's a really high price, but where are they going to go? That's usually the other thing as well. If I sold and I made a lot of money, if I'm staying in this area, I'm going to pay a lot to buy my next house. So, that is one of the objections that, I get sometimes. And to be honest, sometimes there's no real good way around that, right? If they don't have a motivation to move, maybe they are not going to make a move right then. But my goal when I'm circle prospecting these days is twofold. So first and foremost, obviously, we're looking for people that want to make a move right now or in the next 30 to 60 days. That's the number one goal. But instead of just kind of plowing through a list of people and, oh, you want to move? No, you don't want, okay, no. I really try to focus on developing a relationship with them and adding them to my database. And I've been using a great tool, and I know you're probably going to get into tools later, you mentioned, but I'll just bring it up now since we're on the subject. I've been using a program called HOMEBOT, and a lot of people know about this, some people don't. I didn't know about it, but I'm glad I started using it. It's essentially just a program where you can enter in someone's name, email, phone number, and address, and it will send them, it pulls all this data from title company, mortgage company, and it will send them an updated, detailed, a very detailed market analysis of their property. It will tell them how much equity they have. It will tell them what the current interest rate is versus what the interest rate they have. It will tell them how much they could rent their home for if they wanted to rent it out. All kinds of really great analytics that you would really want to know if you're a homeowner. And I will basically tell again, I don't ask, I just tell the person on the phone and say, hey, you know what? I know you're not moving right now. You're not moving until your son graduates in 2 years. But I'm going to give you something that I pay for my friends and family and my clients. So that's a key thing. I tell them I pay for it, because then there's some value there. Okay, he's giving me this thing for free that he pays for. I tell him, I'll give you this thing that I pay for that will help you keep updated on exactly how much equity you have, and a lot of great analytics about your property. And I would love to provide. I'm going to provide that to you for free. That way you can stay up to date until it's time for you to sell. You can keep up with the market. And I always say, what's the best email to send it to? I don't ask, hey, would it be okay? Or, I just am assumptive. I just say, hey, what's the best email to send it to? And 9 times out of 10, when I phrase it that way, they will just say, hey, that sounds great. The best email is da 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 da. Every once in a while, you might get someone that says, no, I don't want it. But I've found that if you ask, hey, is it okay if I send this? You'll get more no's than if you just say, hey, what's the best email to send it to?
Right. Cool. Well, I like this because, one, people circle prospect and do just list just sold, like you mentioned, a lot for now business and cycle through that. But you are also just building your database while calling these people, right? Yeah. So let's talk about that, like, especially for a newer agent who is just trying to get deals and they're focused a lot on now business. What has been the benefit for you to continue that relationship, even if you may never sell their home or it's years down the line?
Well, it's twofold. Number one, you get another person that is in your database that's receiving a branded, because that's the other thing. When it comes to them every month or every couple of months, when they get this update on their home, it's branded. It says it's coming from me and my team, and it's got a pretty little picture of me. So there's some name recognition and branding there. But number two, you're building your brand not only with the database, but their circle. Make no mistake, people talk, especially when real estate is as hot as it's been. You're going to have people that refer you over, and I have had people that have referred me over just from receiving that, where they didn't end up selling, but they referred their friend. They said, hey, my friend wants to sell. Or they'll tell their friend, hey, call this guy. He's been giving me these great, very detailed market analysis for my home. He really is professional. He knows what he's doing. And, I've gotten referral business from it as well. So, I do think it's important for newer agents to get now business. Yeah. And circle prospecting can do that. But I think if an agent is newer and they're really just looking for now business, yes, you should circle prospect, but you've also got to reach out to for sale by owners, old expireds, even for rent by owners, even pre-foreclosures as well. All those type of leads are more of a now business than maybe circle prospecting is. But I think it's just like having a strong bike wheel. You need a lot of different spokes in your prospecting wheel to have a strong amount of business coming in at all times. You can't just do, hey, I just circle prospect or I just call expireds. The more you do, the stronger the wheel of your business is going to be in the end.
I like that. Not focusing or putting all your marbles in one basket, right?
Exactly, yes.
Kind of spreading it out, and getting a little bit of everything, I think will, at least it sounds like, make it a pretty little basket of consistent business, consistent listings from multiple places. That's cool.
Yes, yeah, I would say that's accurate. And I would also say, there's nothing wrong with being really good at one of them. Some people are just really good at circle prospecting or really good at taking, for sale by owners, or they gravitate toward one maybe more than some of the others. And I think that's good, if you have like, this is kind of my niche and I'm the best at it. But I don't think you should completely ignore the other spokes of the wheel. And that goes for, things like social media, Instagram, Facebook. I don't think you should ever ignore those. I think they should be a part of your business. I think you should definitely brand yourself on those platforms because, again, it's just another spoke in the wheel. I can't tell you how many times I've got people that have reached out from Instagram or Facebook and said, hey, I've been seeing your post and that you're selling a lot of homes, and my grandma wants to sell and she doesn't know who to use or whatever. So if I was to never use those avenues, I wouldn't get those people reaching out. So I always tell people, and there's really two different aspects of this business. There's two avenues. Mm-hmm. There's hunting or chasing business, and then there's attracting business to you. And within both of those different avenues, there's different subsections. So when you go down the hunting side, you've got door knocking, circle prospecting, expireds, anywhere where you're going out and you're actively trying to hunt down business. When you go down the other avenue of attracting business to you, you've got things like mailing out, just sold flyers. You've got things like open house. You've got things like, social media, like I said, posting on social media actively. And then that causes people to now reach out to you. Hey, I've got your flyer. Or, hey, I saw your open house sign. I'm coming in. Hey, I've seen you posting on social media. You seem like a nice person, family man. I think I can trust you. You seem like seem like you do a good job. I get that a lot. People that don't really know me, but they follow me. Hey, I've been following you for a while. Oh, my light just went off. I've been following you for a while. It looks like you know what you're doing. I need to do X, Y, and Z, either buy or sell a house. Can you help me?
Right.
So if you can kind of learn how to juggle those two different avenues and kind of schedule them into your day, because it seems like a lot, right? It seems like, God dang it, almost cussed. It seems like, how am I gonna do all of this? But if you really can schedule time block, hey, at every morning at 9 a.m. I'm gonna post something real quick and get off there, or every day at this time I'm gonna post something. It doesn't have to consume your whole day, and I don't think it should. And you have to be very cautious because it can be a distraction, right? It's designed to keep us on there. But if hey, I'm going to jump on, I'm going to do this, and then get off, you can fit it all into your time, your schedule.
I like that. And what it made me think of when you talk about hunting versus attracting is the harder that you hunt or the more you grind is pays off later. And what I mean by that is the more you prospect, like expireds or different lead types, the more you grow your database, which over time will give you more and more business because there's more and more people there. So whether it's like in 10 years, you have a bunch of referrals coming or repeat business from past clients, things like that. So you hunt, and then over time you attract more. Is that safe to say?
That is safe to say. I would say that especially, the nice thing about the attraction part of it is they just work so well hand in hand because let's say you go out and you put in the effort and you get a listing from an expired or for sale by owner or circle prospecting, and you now have this commodity, right? The listing is what everyone wants right now, especially in this market. So now you can say, okay, I spent all this time hunting down, I've got this listing. Now I'm going to take the beautiful photos of it and I'm going to put it over here on my Instagram or my Facebook, or preferably both. And now I'm using what I got from the hunt to now attract buyers, attract people, and to show once you've sold that, once you post one listing, hey, we got this coming up for sale, I'm very excited about it, and then 60 days later, hopefully you are posting that it's sold and everything went smooth. Mm-hmm. And now you also have proof for your sphere, I guess. People on Facebook and Instagram more than likely know who you are, or at least kind of know who you are. So now you have a social proof to say, look, I went out, I grabbed this, I got it, I helped them all the way through, and here's the proof. It's sold now. And so the more you do that, it's just this great kind of symbiotic relationship between these two things, and they really, really feed off of each other. And when you can marry the hard work and the grind to the marketing, and you can bring those two together, that really, really becomes a really great foundation for your real estate business.
I love it. Circle of life, circle of real estate, I guess.
That's circle awesome. Of life, yeah, exactly. You're gonna get all Lion King up in this.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to ask, because we talked a little bit about HOMEBOT and other tools.
See, you sing and the
oh my gosh.
Yeah. See, that's how it works,
It's beautiful.
It's just good energy. It's good vibes.
I was gonna ask, we talked a little bit about HOMEBOT and tools that you use. Mm-hmm. Do you do mailers? Do you send out just listed mailers?
I don't as much as I probably should, but I've done it in the past. What I do more than that is when I door knock, I'll put just listed, just sold flyers, because I like to door knock with something that's kind of a social proof to say, hey, right. Here, instead of just a business card or something, hey, we just sold your neighbor's home. Here is the flyer. Here's the proof. It's right here. Mm-hmm. And if they're not there, then obviously I leave it. But at least that gives you an opportunity to have a conversation with the homeowner. And if they're not there, you're still going to deliver the message via, just leaving it on the door. So I've done mailers. I'll probably do them again in the future, but I would much rather get that stack of cards and hand it out to the homeowner so I can get in front of them and have the conversation.
I like that. Face-to-face interaction beats anything anyway.
Absolutely, yes. And REDX, I've used REDX now for a long time. I don't know how long now, maybe 4 or 5 years. And REDX, one of the underutilized things, in my opinion, from REDX is for rent by owners, especially in a market like this, because a lot of people that are renting out their properties sometimes don't stop to really see what the property's worth always. And so I've found that I've set a lot of appointments and took a lot of listings from calling people and say, hey, I saw your properties for rent, but if you've got a good offer, have you considered selling it if you got a good offer? So it's a little bit of a yes or no question, which I don't love, but you'd be surprised. That usually leads into a question from them. Well, what's a good offer? And then now you're having a conversation about what the property's worth, and I think that's an underutilized tool that REDX provides that a lot of agents, I think, just either don't realize that they can use it, or they don't know how, or it's just kind of the forgotten list. Everyone calls expired, everyone calls for sale by owners, and I think for rent by owners and pre-foreclosures is another one.
I think that's why people gravitate more towards GeoLeads or for rent by owners or pre-foreclosures like you're talking about, because when you're calling expireds or for sale by owners, it's usually more of a heated conversation. There's a lot more emotion tied to it. Mm-hmm. But with for rent by owners, it's kind of just a business conversation of really talking about numbers and if it makes sense for them. And I think that's why a lot of people like it. And not a lot of people prospect to them because they might not know all the lingo or what to say or whatever. But once you figure out those questions to ask, things to say, it, like you said, it's kind of like a gold mine.
It really is. And I would tell agents, if you're nervous about it, you're dealing with maybe a little more of a seasoned investor maybe, or someone that knows maybe a little more, and you might feel a little intimidated. But to be honest, most people that rent properties out are not these real big time investors. A lot of times you'll find that it's maybe someone that inherited a home and just decided to rent it out for a little bit, or maybe this was their first home and they bought another home, and they were kind of financially in a position where they could say, hey, we can buy this other home and rent our first home out. So it's not always these people that own 1,000 homes and they're going to just shut you down type of thing. You really get a lot of good conversations, and you'd be surprised how much business you can get from an avenue like that. And again, it's just another circle in the prospecting wheel. So I would encourage people to definitely give it a try.
Cool. Yeah. Well, before we run out of time, we sent out a. Yeah, I know. We sent out a survey in an email for the invite to this podcast, and we have a couple questions about circle prospecting from people. Okay. If you don't mind, we just close out with some questions.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm excited.
So Stacy asked, is there anything you would do differently if you were just starting out and wanting to make a name for yourself?
Stacy, man, it's a great question. What I would do different if I wanted to make a name for myself.
Loaded question.
That is such a gret question, because normally I'll just, when I get a question, I'm just like, bam, here's the answer. But
yeah.
I can honestly say I don't know if I would do anything different, because this is going to sound like such a douchebag thing to say, but everything I've done has worked really well as far as making a name for myself. So I will just tell you what I did.
Yeah.
Dang, that was really, but anyways, I'm going to move on. I would really utilize Instagram and Facebook, because let's face it, that is the easiest, cheapest way to get in front of the most amount of people. And I would actually, this is what I would do. I would double down on those things, even more so than I did. I wish I would have went even harder. And what I mean by that is just utilizing all different aspects of what they have to offer. So using more stories, posting maybe 2 times a day, because once you get that ball rolling, it is a very good way to get business. It is, as much as I hate to say that, because I don't want people to think that that's all you need to do. You still need to prospect, children. You need to do this. But I would double down on video as well. I would double down on video. That's what I didn't do. Do more video. I would do more video sooner, much sooner. I would do 110% video, because people really get to know who you are through a video.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
That would be what I would do different, would double down, triple down on video.
Awesome. Stacy, I hope that answered your question. That was such a good question, so thanks.
That was a great question.
Amanda asked 2 questions. First is, when circle prospecting.
Sure.
Yeah. Sorry, you're cut off.
Sorry, go ahead.
She asked, when circle prospecting, do you ever call a neighborhood more than once?
Yes, yeah, I do. I try not to do it. Well, here's when I do it twice. So when I just list a home, I'll call the neighborhood. Then when that home either gets under contract or sells, usually I try to wait till it sells or it's about to close escrow, I will call the neighborhood again. So they're getting you the first time where you're saying, hey, I listed this home. And then they're getting you the second time again with the social proof that, hey, I know I talked to you 30 days ago or 45 days ago, but hey, guess what? That home that we listed for $400,000, do you remember when I called you? Well, now it's sold for $430,000. So there you go. Now are you ready to move? So I do call a neighborhood more than once. And if I get another listing in that neighborhood, I will call them again. Now, if you get someone that absolutely says, don't ever call me again, then just take them off the list. But there's nothing wrong with hitting a neighborhood more than once in a 60-day cycle. I wouldn't call the whole same neighborhood every week, but yeah, I'll call them again.
Nice. Along those same lines, she said, aside from calls and text, do you do anything else to follow up with circle prospecting leads?
To follow up with the leads?
Mm-hmm.
If it's a really good lead and I maybe have a day where, this is rare, but if I have a day where it's like I got a blank 2 hours in my schedule, I will sometimes, if it's a lead that's not far away, I will go and knock the door in person. Like if it's someone I met on the phone and they said, hey, yeah, I'm thinking of selling in 3 months, and maybe I've called once and followed up, I might just go drop by and say, hey, this is exactly what I say. I'll say, hey, I was in the neighborhood for X, Y, and Z, or I was driving by or whatever, and I wanted to introduce myself in person because that way you can put a face to the name, because I know we just have spoke over the phone, and I could just be some weirdo, on the phone. So I wanted to bring you my card, and maybe even I'll do sometimes a CMA, which depending on how far they're if they're 6 months out, maybe I'll bring them a CMA and say, hey, this is what's going on in your neighborhood. I want to personally introduce myself. That way you know that I'm a real person and I'm a legitimate person. So I will sometimes follow up in person. And sometimes I will stalk them on social media and add them as a friend. I'm not opposed to doing that. If I find them on social media and I talk to them on the phone, I'll add them. And 9 times out of 10, it goes good.
Love it.
I've never had anyone say, why'd you do that or anything. I've had some people maybe not accept the request, but because then, again, it allows them into your life to say, okay, wow, this guy's posted about his family. He's posted about the homes he sold. He's not just some person randomly calling me now. Now they're putting a face to the name, and they get to know you as a person. So they're going to be more apt, as long as they like everything about what, how you are as a person. As long as you're not posting anything crazy, then they're more than likely going to say, hey, yeah, this is maybe someone that I'd like to do business with. So in person or social is a good way to follow up instead of just emails and texts and phone calls.
Love it. I love it. Human connection. Okay, well, we're wrapping up here, but I wanted to give you last final thoughts, advice, thoughts that you have that have come up to give you the last word here.
Wow.
Open-ended.
Arguing with my wife. I never get the last word when I'm arguing with my wife, but now I do get the last word.
Here you go. Here's your chance.
Here we go. My wife is lovely. I would say, really, if I could give one piece of advice other than make sure you prospect and work hard, is just, it's hard to do initially. And I used to hear people talk about this, but you really need to envision yourself as the person you want to become. And that goes to a kind of a mindset thing. And we didn't really talk about mindset, but I think it's very important to, whatever it takes for you to have a positive mindset and envision becoming who you want to be, and live as if, or act as if you are already that person. It can be somewhat of a challenge, but I promise if you give it enough of an attempt and you really try to manifest, to look ahead at what you want to become and what you want your life to become, you really can almost speak those things into existence and manifest those things if you, number one, have the right attitude, and number two, you put in the hard work. That would be something that I would tell a lot of agents is, maybe you're just starting out, or maybe you've been in the business for a year or two and you can't get past selling, 1 home a month maybe. And you want to be that agent that sells 2 a month or 3 a month or 100 deals. Start really manifesting that and focusing on what are they doing and how can I put myself in the position to do those things. Beautiful.
That was beautiful last word. I don't know.
Appreciate it.
Yes. I think, you said it. I appreciate all of the things that you've shared today. I think you've shared a lot of valuable information, especially for new agents who are getting started here and who are watching this podcast. So James, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and help somebody else out. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. And I love to, there's always a lot of questions I get after these from people like on Facebook, Instagram. So I love to connect with anyone that's watching or listening to this. Just Instagram is just James_Shelby. You'll find me there, and I'm always here to help. And thank you to REDX. If you don't have REDX people out there, this is a product that I use daily. I just use this. Quick story. I just use this because this crazy market that we're in, I have a buyer that we have been trying to find them a home. And I pulled an old expired, and We're going to go take them to take a look at it, and I think we're gonna have a match here. So all thanks to REDX, because I pulled the number from REDX, and here we are.
That's awesome. Beautiful. Thanks for the plug. We appreciate it.
No, my pleasure.
And,
thank you for what you guys do.
Yes, and thank you to everyone that is watching today. If you wanted to be, we asked some questions from a survey, so if you want to be included in those emails where we send those surveys, again, redx.com/podcast. But I think that wraps up today's episode, and we will see you guys back here next Thursday, 1:30 Mountain Time, 3:30 Eastern Time. Thanks so much for watching.